Welcome back to Live for Love TV. Today's the third day of the 12th month, the 22nd year inside the 21st century. I hope everyone's doing well out there. Let me clear my throat. I was talking to a brethren the other day, and we was talking about the growing up, and he's an ex herb smoker like myself. So we were talking about the times when we used to smoke and be intoxicated, and some of the things that we used to believe, whilst we were smoking. Now, this is not to denigrate anybody who still smokes, because I'd say 80 to 90% of my friends, close compadres and things are still smokers. So it's no denigration to them. People do as they want, just like I did as I want. In fact, when I was smoking, no one could tell me anything was wrong. But one thing I can remember, and we was talking, and it makes me laugh when I think about it. When we used to smoke, we used to say, boy, smoking don't do you nothing. Smoking don't do nothing to you. It's like it don't do nothing to you. So it's like, it's not like alcohol. Alcohol drunk you. Smoking don't do nothing to you. And it's only now, years later, when you think about it and you think to yourself, well, if smoking don't do nothing to you, why would you spend so much money on it? If smoking don't do nothing to you, why would you spend so much time smoking? Of course it does something to you. But what we was trying to say was it doesn't do anything negative to you. Well, nobody who believes in the thing that they believe in would think it does anything negative to you. Now I could so many I'd say herb stories and my ganja tales that I could tell you, yeah, and ones that are not going to get anybody who I used to move with or into trouble or anything like that. So I'm going to give you one actual true event, and I'm going to show you the kind of person I was then, and I'm not now, but the kind of person I was then. This goes back a long time, yeah. But they find YouTube, General. Yeah, brethren passing through. So this goes back a long time. Let's say, how many years ago would this have been? How old would I? 20 years? No, more than 20 years. I'm not talking about 25, at least 25 years ago. Anyway, it was coming, like it's a December now, but it was closer to Christmas. And, we're herbalists, and, in life, sometimes you're in a good position, sometimes you're not in a good position. Anyway, one Christmas came, and I was not in a good position financially. I can remember it very clearly. I was going through some struggles. I was up and down. The money was coming, it was going. I had all kind of issues. I'm not going to mention what caused it, but I was in not a good financial situation. And I was living in the east of London at the time, in the UK. And I basically never had any money. It was Christmas Eve. I never had any money. And I'm a smoker. I smoke every day. A day doesn't pass where we don't smoke. And we're talking about Christmas Eve, and I'm short on money. So I got a brethren who lives in northwest London, not going to mention his name, good brethren, who was juggling, So I said to him, I called him up and said, boy, things rough. And he said, boy, don't worry, man, come down, come pick up a thing, So I went from East London to northwest London. It took me half an hour, stayed with the brethren for a while, picked up a draw. And I'm driving back now. I've driven back, feeling good. It's feeling good, Christmas Eve. I'm driving back to East London, and I've driven through an area called Stamford Hill. Did not see the police. I did not see them where they came from. They were on my tail within seconds, and they pulled me over in Stamford Hill. And as they pulled me over, they took me out of the car. They started, the same old, yeah, where you're coming from. There are all these silly questions. As a brother, you get all those questions. You used to, you grew up with it. And it was late at night. It must have been, I don't know, 11 o'clock plus. And for some reason, I don't know where I thought in my mind that I'd put my drawer, my stash, as they call it. So what happened was, it was actually in my top lapel. So the policeman actually looked, as he's talking to me, he looked and he saw it. And he actually says, hi, what do we have here then? And then he puts his hand down, the two of them, one of them puts his hand down and pulls out my drawer. Now, remember what I just said to you. I'm a big time smoker. Yeah, I don't ramp with it. I don't ramp with the herbs. Yeah, and he pulled it out of my pocket and he said, "What do we have here?" Then? And before he could get it properly up, I took it out of his hand and said, and I took it out of his hand. I can't remember the words I said, but I said, "I mind that. That's mine." And he looked at me, and I looked at him, and I said, "This is WAR. Remember, it's Christmas Eve. I ain't got a draw. This is war. I don't know what would have happened to them. I certainly didn't care what would happen to me, but he wasn't taking that from me. He looked at his brethren, and he looked at him, and they thought better of it. And they just went back into their car and drove off. And I got into my car and drove off. And I didn't think nothing of it. Honestly, I really didn't think nothing. I didn't think I'd done anything wrong. I didn't see any way. But we, hardcore smoking, that's how we grow. We we defend certain things with our life. We go clubs, we defend it with our life. We defend this with our life. So to me, I drove off. I didn't even consider what could have, how the thing could have gone down. It didn't even consider in my mind. I knew that they weren't taking me in on Christmas Eve, and they certainly weren't taking my herbs stash that evening. That wasn't going to happen. But I'm saying this, and I'm remembering that I've got many true stories like this that went on back in the days of herbs. That when I look back, it makes me laugh. It makes me it humors me to think to myself, wow, that's the level that we're at. And I know a lot of brothers and my brothers and that's where we are. They defend the herbs. I mean, there's nothing, it's a natural plant, yeah. So we grew up with that. But a lot of the things that we used to encourage one another when we were smoking, used to say was absolute. I mean, it was absolute. People talking about, it was found on King Solomon's grave. Where is King Solomon's grave? What kind of, this is the sort of stuff that we were brought up growing. It was like as if that's to encourage you to smoke it because it's going to make you conscious. Going to make you more sensible than you are, really. Well, it didn't make me more sensible than I was, It might have relaxed me at the time because I was a very highly anxious youth. You understand? But it never made me any more conscious than I was, yeah? It just, you just tell yourself these stuff and one another, music tells you it and certain man them talk it and you think you're more conscious, but you're not really more conscious. You're not more conscious. You're just fooling. I think I was just fooling myself into thinking, because the minute I stopped smoking, I became more conscious. I started to be able to travel to better places. I started to become financially independent. I started to be able to, have no boss, no one looking over me. That never happened to me when I was supposedly conscious and I was smoking. So the reason why I'm bringing it up is that it's funny how we tell ourselves these things about, ganja fine on King Solomon's grave. And that, the question is whether King Solomon ever existed, and if he did exist, who knows where his grave would be? Who could say that there was weed on his grave? And on top of it, if you're saying that weed, as in a weed, was growing on his grave, go to any grave place in the world, wherever you live, go to the grave place, and there's weeds all over the place. It might not be ganja, but it definitely won't be ganja, most probably. But there's weeds everywhere. That's what weeds grow in the ground. They grow everywhere. So that kind of thing that we used to tell one another, or people used to tell us as youths growing up, and we took it in hook, line, and sinker. It just because we wanted to. We wanted to believe that sort of stuff because we were smokers. We were hardcore smokers. I've been to clubs where I've seen people thrown out back in the day for smoking weed, thrown out at a club, and the bouncers would come see people like me and who I was moving with, and we're smoking the weed, and they knew, don't come over here. It ain't gonna go the way you think it's gonna go because we grow differently, and we defend that with a lot. Now that's how we rolled, and the bouncers would know what you were doing, but they wouldn't come to you. They knew who to pick on, They knew who to throw out and who to put their arm on their shoulder. And we never used to play that. So, I'm just reminiscing about these things. But for me, it's the things you tell yourself so you can continue doing the things you want to do. That's really, to me, looking back, it's quite laughable, And as I said already, if you truly believe that under the herbs that you're more conscious than you would be if you haven't, then you'd have to have had both times. Because I started smoking so young that I couldn't make that statement. I was too young to say I was more conscious under the weed. By the time I did stop smoking the weed, I can tell you I certainly wasn't as conscious when I'm off it as when I was on it. There's no way, you know. I got stories I could tell you. I'm gonna leave you with this story, quick one, yeah, to tell you how the herbs can affect you. I went to a friend's house one night. There was 6 of us. Those days, weed was cheap. We had it piled high like a little small pyramid, and we were burning it, and everybody was burning weed, and you know, and literally, out of the 4, 5, or 6 of us there, everybody fell asleep. I was the last man standing, usually was, and I was doing okay. And the morning came, daylight was on, so I went downstairs and I said, "Oh boy, I'm leaving." So I went to leave, went outside, can't find my car. Look up, down, look, can't find my car. My God, they've stolen my car. So I've had to go back up to the apartment we were in and wake up the man them and say, "Listen, man, the man them thief my car." They said, "No, brother." Yes, man, they thief my car, man. So anyway, they all get up, they come down, and as they come through the door, they look straight opposite and say, "This your car?" And I couldn't believe it. I said to myself, "Hold a minute. I spent half an hour looking up and down for my car, and these men have come down and found my car." This is under the ganja, under the herbs. Take care. This is another story from Live for Love TV. Take care.
People, one step more, one step more, one step